Welcome, everybody, to Money Mastery for the Mystical Woman Entrepreneur. I'm very excited to be talking with Sasha Rose today, and I'm going to tell you a bit about her. Um, the sort of focus of our conversation today is going to be the power of the heroine's journey for women leaders, and I just love that title. Sasha is a seasoned astrologer with over 25 years studying astrology, spirituality, and meditation. She's been a massage therapist, a director of not-for-profits, as well as an educator for visionary projects in schools with a focus on experiential learning that fosters empowerment. Her life journey inspired her to create a unique heroine's journey framework for visionary women leaders. For the past 13 years, she's coached women using the secret astrology of Venus to support the rise of feminine leadership. Recognized as a leading expert on the Venus cycle, Sasha has revolutionized a method for women leaders to align with this cosmic feminine rhythm in service to their mission. She shares the Venus Wisdom framework in practical, accessible, and embodied ways to help women create meaningful changes in their life, refine their leadership, and make their dreams a reality. Okay, great. Welcome, Sasha. So happy to have you here, get to have this conversation with you.
Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here, Michelle.
Yeah. So I would love to know, so our listeners are deep, creative, intuitive, sensitive women like we are. And as I said in our chat a little bit just a moment ago before we started, that my experience working with women like myself, like you, is that I work with really gifted women. These are, gifted practitioners of all kinds, gifted healers, gifted teachers, gifted writers and artists. And and so there's no lack of skill set, there's no lack of motivation, there's no lack of inspiration, but sometimes the relationship to money is not as empowered as it needs to be to create a sustainable livelihood, and continue growing it into a really generous, blossoming life and business. So I'm curious, with your in-depth knowledge on the Venus cycle, um, what kind of patterns have you seen, money related obstacle patterns have you seen with the women that you work with? And what are some of the most important lessons that we need to be learning?
Oh, I love that question. Yeah, well, Venus is about money, so we know she's important for generating
Wow.
money.
Mm,
So in astrology, just in any astrology, and I hold the astrology in a very special way because I hold all of the sky story in the container of a 19 months heroine's journey, and that is informed by Venus and the sun coming together, conjuncting in a certain sign at a certain degree, and really opening up this beautiful seed of potential for us to learn from for 19 months, to really be the meditation, to be the mother consciousness, that divine or cosmic feminine energy that really is holding us from the heroine's journey of birth. I'm here. I want to create something. I want to have my own business, that creative urge. And then the descent of the trials, the tribulations. Oh, that didn't turn out how I thought it would. Oh, that this is harder than I thought it would be. And then that initiation into the underworld where we need to release who we were, who we thought we were, that identity, that conditioning. It's a deconditioning process to become truer to who we are.
mm,
And then re-emerging as the evening star. So she's invisible in the underworld. She's in the morning star. And then the evening star is that time to bring forth more of our authentic being and be in an attunement with others and in a relationship with others in how we show up. And then the cycle begins again. So, this pulse of life, death, and rebirth is very relevant for women who are creating their own businesses that are connected to their sacred work, which is different than just having a job, of course. It's very deep,
absolutely.
personal.
Yeah, I love every word that you just said. I really, really enjoyed hearing that. I think that, as women, just, the cyclical nature, our very existence has such a cyclical nature. There's so many aspects to a woman's life and a woman's body that are cyclical. So, it's very easy to resonate and identify with this, this cycle you just described, morning star, evening star, this whole journey. So, yeah, beautiful, really beautiful. And so, when and you're so right. And again, this is the conundrum, is that just because we are gifted and just because we're motivated and just because we're dying to share our gifts and we know that's what we're here for, does not instantaneously give us an empowered relationship to money. And in fact, and I learned this the hard way myself, of course, early in my business, the first probably 5 years. And so not only does it not instantaneously give us an empowered relationship, but we deeper, more sensitive types tend to have particular barriers. I find some common barriers. I'm curious what you find, Sasha. I know in my work, there's, when we're more spiritual, there's this idea that money shouldn't matter, or money doesn't matter, or money's not spiritual, or money's, materialistic, and right. And so, yeah, so I find that these can be, I've really come to understand these as protectors and excuses, and that for the type of women we're talking about, along with that depth and intuition and creativity, there's also maybe an extra burden of self-doubt and fear. So those kind of beliefs kind of keep us really safe. And yeah, from visibility and many other scary aspects of really blossoming. Wondering, like, what are some of the common things that you hear from people that come to you that are struggling with money?
Yeah, well, that is such uh, a common theme. I think in many ways for all women because of our conditioning, but especially highly sensitive women, creative women, intuitive women who are gifted. This astrology of Venus represents money, but at a deeper level, it represents our own self-esteem. And so it shows us through the astrology that the money that we make, the prosperity that we create is connected at the deepest level to our self esteem. We can see that right in the chart. So oftentimes, women who, for whatever reason, haven't had the culture affirm their gifts and their purpose, or didn't have a family system that did that, they have to find a way to source that within. To me, that is the heroine's journey. That's the
Yes,
place we go where we realize that that unconditional support and love of Mother God, the mystery, God, however you call it, is inside. It's through
yes,
that portal of our own heart, and we can fill up from within. And
yes,
this from within, and that allows us to receive, because Venus represents our feminine nature, which is about receiving. And oftentimes we have blocks around receiving. I mean, myself personally, when I first started doing astrology and massage together, it was really fun. I would do body work and I would know someone's chart, and they're just this very intuitive way that I would weave them together. I remember not wanting to accept the money out of their hands. It made me very uncomfortable. I wanted them to put it on the table.
interesting.
And it was my own block around that. And now, over my own work, I welcome it because it is an energy exchange. And I think women who come into this life and have past lives as being space holders, priestesses, deep wisdom
Mhm.
keepers, there was a energy exchange that was quite abundant. So those women could relax into tending to spirit. And
Yeah,
this doesn't represent that, doesn't offer that kind of support oftentimes. So there's that struggling artist, there's that healer who never has enough money in this current culture because it's a dominator culture that doesn't honor the feminine.
right.
So it's more that we honor and embody our own feminine, the more that we can bring that energy into our business and
Mhm.
clear those blocks so that we're really valuing ourselves and our work. And that's why knowing our own Venus and the astrology of our Venus is really helpful, because it shows us, okay, these qualities are yours to cultivate. And they're very diverse. They're
Yeah,
not just this one way of being, which the feminine has been put in this very small description of what it is, but it's this whole beautiful kaleidoscope. And so then we know, oh, that part of me, like we can find it within us, and we can develop that. I call the inner heroine, that kind
yeah.
of strength that looks a thousand different ways and feels a thousand different ways.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes. Really, really enjoy hearing this from you. I so relate to every single thing you're saying, and both for myself, my own journey, and we who, again, somehow, we deeper types often have had very phoenix-like lives. We have descended many a time. We've had many initiations. We've gone down and returned, transformed many times. And really through that, just such an evolutionary process. So we are no stranger to converting darkness into beauty. And the work that you do is one of the beautiful paths to really supporting that process. I recently began doing about creating a body of work called Money and the Mother, and really that resonates so deeply with what you're saying too, because the mother, of course, is the feminine, and the mother is where we learn about receiving based on whether, what kind of receiver was our mother, what kind of permission did we receive to receive. And so a lot of the way that I approach it has to do with sort of becoming your own mother. And so that, like you're saying, we can't rely on the paradigms that have existed for decades, because those paradigms will have us talking us right out of our potential to really create what we want. We're like this square peg and round hole. Yeah. So,
I
there's,
love that. Yes, absolutely. To me, that's the heroine's journey of that repatterning, that
yeah,
remothering, and
yes,
finding those that dominator virus where it lives within us, and really sorting that out, and
yes.
inside job, that kind of valuing and ability to receive. And we're really touching upon our stories in the heroine's journey. The really interesting thing is that the place where Venus and the sun meet, it repeats every 8 years. So you get these themes in your life that when women start tuning into Venus, they're like, oh wow, you're right. 8 years ago that came up. And so there's this way that
Wow.
our life stories have this cycle, and it's like a spiral. That spiral shows us the opening where we can make a different move. If it's just a circle, we can get caught in a loop. Many of us have been caught in the underworld,
Right.
in a loop, and we can't get out. We can't see that opening, and we learn from that, and yet it's not comfortable. But oftentimes the women who are meant to be the healers and the helpers, and really deep artists that are in touch with the suffering of the world, how to come out of that suffering, how to re-arise out of that suffering. Sometimes we need to be in it in order to learn it, unfortunately. But when we have this cosmic support of actually going into the sky story and allowing the light of Venus to support us and go, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not
Yeah.
alone. There's all these other women. We're connected through our hearts. We're connected through knowing. When I look up at Venus in the morning, there's thousand millions of women all over the world that are looking at her morning star beauty, and we're connected through that. So it's through that connection we know that trauma is healed. It's
Yes, yes,
when
yes.
we get shut down, that shutdown, polyvagal shutdown, that is the underworld at a nervous system level. And
Mm.
so when we have that connection and that own inner valuing, and I've learned that, the earth and the sky can actually provide so much nurturance, even if there's not humans and animals. We have many, many different resources to connect with to help us to return to that safe and social, return to that topside world and say, yes, I am unique. Yes, I am different. It's actually my difference that makes me so beautiful.
Yes, 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 exactly. Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Again. Yeah, I totally, totally resonate with all of that. Right. And it is the right. And it's like really, right, my own experience. And again, what I see with the many amazing women that I have worked with and that I'm currently working with is that when we're young, like you're saying, when we're young, it's like we tend to be caught developmentally, we're caught in that circle, right? So it's like we want to stop suffering, we want to blossom in a different way, but it's really difficult to get out of the trauma loop. And I think that, when we're, diligent and our intention is to heal and grow and we're courageous and we're on that heroine's journey, then what happens is that what I observe and what I've experienced is that at a certain point, closer to midlife and then certainly beyond, These, I'll say, saboteurs or captors or trauma, whatever we want to call it. They will show up from time to time, but they no longer take over. They no longer hijack the whole shebang. They no longer hijack all of our efforts, our relationships, our gifts. And so there's this incredible strengthening of that phoenix muscle that occurs through, again, many cycles. And I also liken it, I mean, in the work I do, it's also part of how we become the queen archetype. So it's, because she was not always born the queen. She's not a diva. She became the queen through many, many initiations. And yeah, and so, we get to a point where we are sourcing our own wisdom and our own knowing, independent of all those paradigms, independent of all the ways that we've been taught that we never really felt seen and heard, and where we didn't really identify. We start to become our own. We create our own paradigm. We
Yeah.
live our own paradigm. Yeah, beautiful.
I
So,
love that you're mentioning midlife because there's these beautiful astrological thresholds. One happens about 40 and
mhm.
then one happens about 50. And it's right, it's true. The softening of all that BS of our conditioning falls away. And ironically, just when the culture tells us that we're over the hill and we're not anything anymore,
Oh,
is when we're in our most
right.
potent beauty and power. Our inner beauty is so powerful at that time. And
Yeah.
so, for this certain crew of women, which may be you and maybe some of the women listening to this, from about 47 to 58, we have this marker. I have this of our deepest wound is around having agency, around our
That's
sacred,
right. Yes, yes,
around
yes.
the boundaries, around, oh, I can be angry, I can
Right.
embody that masculine
Right.
assertiveness. And so this particular group of women has very special medicine for this time because that disconnection from the Aries birthing principle, and how do we change that from being about war and violence to be about the actual birth process?
Yes.
My goodness, it's the first sign of the zodiac. Let's have it not be about war. So that particular crew of women have very special initiation right now to stand taller and brighter and be bigger, and to have that life experience and the richness of it that the collective needs exactly right now at this moment for this
That's
transition
right.
into the
Yes.
age of Aquarius that's well
Yeah.
underway. And so this particular Venus cycle is also in the sign of Aries, which is the
Cool.
entrepreneur,
Wow.
which is
Interesting.
the sign of the fire starter, which is that spark. And so the healing, all the healing is available on this particular heroine's journey that started March 22nd
Yeah.
to help those women to go, oh, okay, yeah, I'm filling up. I'm willing to stand bolder and brighter, and I'm not going to burn out because it's that
Yeah.
spark
Yes.
energy. But then it's not sparking the whole time. It's that spark. Okay, it's right time. My truth is coming. My throat is open. My heart is bright. And then it's that retreating back into the yin, into the waters, and then that sparking again. So there's this beautiful titration between the Pisces energy and the Aries energy that we get to ride for this whole cycle through October of 2026 to really master that within ourselves, that ebb and flow. And to find our fire and find the right moment, the right timing, the right fierceness, and to be brighter and more visible
Yeah.
in our particular sacred work at this time.
Beautiful. Gorgeous. 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 Yeah, I mean, I think of it as reclaiming authority for our own lives, really. It's like a real reclamation. And I think that so, like when we're younger, our conditioning just really has us self-abandoning this way and that way most of the time, right? And so it's quite the journey, quite the heroine's journey to reclaim authority for our own lives and really understand in a very authentic way what that means, right? Because I think when we talk about reclaiming our anger, we talk about reclaiming our visibility, we talk about reclaiming our feelings. I think of it also as reclaiming our grief, our right to grieve. I find grief the most transformational emotion. I have befriended grief, and I have just found it to be, the missing link in so many cases where where someone is sort of either feeling blunted or they're not, they've done so much, but they're not able to move forward. Usually there is unfelt grief. And so I think that there's a real delicate process of understanding what those things mean for you, right? Because it's not always just so even reclaiming anger, it's not always running around blasting everybody with your anger or the big rah-rah, kind of in your face type of self-expression. I mean, if that's your personality and you feel whole when you're really bold and really out there all the time, great. But for many women, the authenticity in all of those emotions um, has a different tone, like a different tenor, right? And so it's really finding. I remember myself, like I had a one of the systems that I work with when I first began working with it, maybe 11 years ago. It showed a leadership shadow, and I realized, oh, my mother was a very, for me, she was the image of a negative leader. She was always the leader, wherever she was, whatever job she had. She was critical, she was domineering, this kind of thing. Very early on, unconsciously, I said, if that's a leader, I'm not, thanks. And so, of course, many years later, it showed up as a shadow, but it showed up as a potential. And I remember at first going, oh my God, like, who knew there was a leader in there? And then I said to myself, oh my God, what kind of leader am I? I'm not that kind. I don't want to be that kind. I'm not her. What does my leadership expression look like? And then it became a fun evolutionary exploration. And I blew all my own. I had to blow all my own concepts about leaders having this like really tough kind of masculine way of doing things and bossing people around and all this kind of thing, and really discover what true authentic true leadership meant for me. So there's a lot, I think, a lot of that in this time of reclaiming agency, reclaiming authority. It's very, very personal. It's very intimate. It's very much, like unique to each person. So,
Absolutely. Of
right?
course, now I'm dying to know your Venus astrology, of course. But, yes, absolutely. I love that you said that and you brought in the grief because I think when we go forth and we present what we have, our sacred medicine, there is grief in that. There is rejection in that. And that's the piece that as sensitives, I think we need to have the resilience to do because that's speaking of money, most entrepreneurs right now are not making money because they're not making offers every day.
Right. That's
They're
right.
not putting out, this is my work, this is my offer.
Yes.
That's bold. And you might do that in a very soft-spoken way
Right.
if it's your style. It's
Right.
not about being a certain way. It's about being bold enough to share what you got. And it's very uncomfortable for me. And I've worked a lot on it. But this particular cycle, we have the support of that Aries energy to
Right.
show up as we are. And, I'm really creating this discipline where every morning I do my coach calls it my miracle hour. So I am putting out a post, I'm sharing what I do, I'm making offers, I'm messaging, I'm creating relationships, I'm following up and saying I have medicine for the world. And if you don't want it, that's okay. That's the weird thing we don't like about sales is if someone's pressuring us, but then we can go too far into the balance of never talking about it. I remember one time when I
Right.
first had my website, someone was like, did you know that your name is not on your website?
Oh my God. Oh my
Are you
God.
kidding me? And it was not on my website. I had Venus Wisdom, but I didn't actually have my
Oh my
name.
God.
You
Right.
know,
I
my
so get it. Yeah.
son, my son is conjunct Neptune, so I kind of have a particularly interesting relationship with invisibility. I was like, oh, okay, I don't have that. So
Right.
how are we using that fire to fire up our own self leadership? And it may be that we're posting a video of ourselves sharing, or we're posting a clip of something that we did.
Right.
Well, that's bold. Bold looks a million different
Right.
ways. It's more that willingness to show up, being who we are, and to share and to share and to share. And that is not easy.
Yeah.
That there's power there. And then also to say no. And this is something that's very interesting in sales is that oftentimes women will not say no when they don't want something. They'll just kind of ghost, be like, okay, I hope that goes away because I don't want that. And so it's kind of the other side too of being like, no thanks. I'm not interested. Oh, yes, I am interested. Then we're getting into our desire, and that
Right.
our voice is actually representing our desire.
Right, right. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and the way I frame it usually, that's those exact same sort of principles. I always tell my clients, if what you're doing moves you, it will definitely move others. If it doesn't move you, it won't move others. And so it requires that constant sort of internal digging and aligning with a deeper level of intimacy with self so that your offers are born from that place and they are truly inspired. They are truly something that has, an aliveness, an electricity and a resonance for you. And then speaking about them and then offering them and then writing about them. It's just coming from a deep, heart-centered place of sharing what really matters to you. And if it really matters to you, it probably really matters to others as well, is what I find, and
Absolutely. There's a resonance there. And also, I think we have a natural inclination. Me, as a very early morning star, so the morning star phase is really about sacred selfishness, understanding self. And those women really need to be centered in self to be able to embody their Venus codes or energies. Whereas evening star Venuses have a tendency to have more of an understanding. They can read the room maybe better, or there's just some kind of inherent quality there. So for me, I can really get in touch with what I think is brilliant and amazing and will be of service. But I need to work on listening to the words that women are saying about what they need so I can help bridge this awesome thing that I have with what they're needing.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think we have different talents and in these areas,
yeah,
and so we do want to be solving something that is very important for a woman, and we want to be able to speak to her in a way where she can understand that. And so it is like an up level in this current contraction of the economy, and there's less sales happening, and
yeah,
there's a trust recession because people have been burned by a lot of online stuff. And
right.
so there's more hesitancy. And so I
Mhm.
think it's a call for us to become more skillful in that dance and more bold in making more offers as well, so that we can actually generate the resources we need to have a life
Right.
based on our purpose.
Right. And you spoke to it just a moment ago so beautifully when you said this, and it's just these kind of gifts are exactly what the world needs most. It's really important that listeners understand that it's your quirky, unique, one of a kind, really deep, these incredible gifts that maybe nobody ever truly understood, maybe nobody ever truly supported or nurtured. The field is wide open now because with all the chaos and all the pain and all the suffering and confusion, many people are seeking more deeply as well. They're taking this, this quest for deeper answers and deeper meaning and deeper understanding of their own lives much more seriously. And so it's a beautiful time to call in your people. It's a beautiful time to put these kinds of, again, one of a kind, pioneered offers into the field, into the world. This is your moment. This is our moment, and oddly, and so it's very important to understand that we need to stop waiting for the external circumstances that fluctuate all the time that we cannot control to settle down. It's like, we get to create our own economy, we get to create our own path, and yeah. So
Yeah.
it's really a very powerful time. I know you're speaking to that in everything that you're saying, and that has been my experience as well. Really, since COVID hit, since the onset of COVID, I experienced an opening that has really been a profound invitation to people like us to really, just show up and sing our song, and tell our story and make those offers. And to your point as well, um, I think it's really important that listeners understand people need to be invited into your offers. We assume everybody knows that, you want to work with them. I have just really found that people need to be literally invited.
Yes.
And that's a very important missing link, for like, how do I get clients? Where do I find clients? How does this happen? You invite them. with a heartfelt, deep invitation. And it's a very literal invitation. And that's a really important piece.
And it's incredibly Venusian because Venus represents our relating, the art of relating, how we give and receive love,
Mhm. Yes.
how we attune to another. And
Mhm.
so that's the good news is that all the old sales processes are really not working anymore. It is about that exactly the intimacy you're speaking of, the invitation, the how may I serve you? And if I can't serve you, I'll let you know. And maybe
Mhm.
there's place else where I can help you get that need met. So those that are really authentic and naturally have that kind of attunement really have a blessing during this time if you don't give up. If you
Yeah.
don't give up and you can
Yeah.
keep going, because I know, my own process, sometimes it's just like, oh, what am I doing this for? Or whatever, all those doubts and fears. And so
Yeah.
finding the strength where we can find the strength. And I feel one of the places, really is in understanding our nature, know ourselves. And there's the Venus sign, which in the gift that I'm offering, anyone who doesn't know their Venus sign can go in and they can connect with it and learn something about it and have that reflection. And that's more at the human level, how we operate in that realm of giving and receiving. And then there's like the secret part that most women don't know, which is like their Venus star. It's that place where Venus and the sun met, and it's incredible. I've seen so many women, they know it inside of them, but when it's reflected back to them, that particular quality, it's like this very deep, I feel like it's a connection to our soul being
Mhm.
like, oh, I
Mhm.
can be that. And so that way that we give ourselves permission to
Yeah.
be all of who we are in whatever maps we use to understand ourselves. I think the women who are drawn to your work are going to naturally be reflective and introspective and really wanting to understand who they are in this moment of great change, or they do understand who they are. And so they're wanting to bring forth, their own unique gifts that are likely cultivated over a lot of time in and life experience. And
Yeah.
if they're over 45, we're holding the only memory of the time before tech. And that's really important. We grew up in a time that we did have much more human connection. And,
Right.
how can we bring that forward into this time that's increasingly disconnected and virtual? We're the
Right.
ones to represent that because the younger ones just don't have that lived experience.
Right. 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 Yeah, so very interesting. Yeah. And I have to say, and I want you to say a little bit more about your gift in a moment, but I have to just say that you said you'd love to know my Venus configuration. Well, years ago, I did a mini reading with you, and quite a few years ago, it was one of your mini offers, which I just loved. And in that offer, you or in that session, you told me I had just met. The person I'm now living with, and you had told me that this was just a really significant, like a real power packed relationship. And you said some very significant things. And we've been living together now for 3 years. I didn't know that was going to happen at that time. And so, just a plug for this really pinpointing, that you're able to do some very, very specific things and very key domains of life that are those domains that matter so very much to people, right? Love, money, and health and well-being. That's right, everything.
All the good things in life are represented
Yeah.
by this. I call her the golden key to the age of Aquarius because we
Yeah.
want to bring forth all of that beauty of the senses, nature, embodiment, love, sensuality, massage, good food, abundance, prosperity. We want that in the age of Aquarius. We don't want to, disappear into the ethers of the virtual. We want all that real, luscious living.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Really yum. It's just,
I love
absolutely.
hearing that though about your relationship. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I wanted you to know that. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I remember enjoying the reading very much and how much it resonated for me. But, that was particularly precious to me. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you could just see him in my chart. Which was like, these things are so magical. how they all happen. Yeah, and so I want you to tell people a little bit more about your gift, a little more detail, so that they will go run and get it. And yeah, before we
Yeah,
wrap up.
so it's a free Venus guide, Secrets of Your Venus Guide, because you may know your Venus sign already, but the way that I wrote this was one, to give you some framework about the cycle to hopefully intrigue you and to gift you the map for this Venus and Aries cycle that lasts until October 26th. And especially the dates every month where the moon and Venus meet. Those are very special dates because that's
Mm.
the lunar feminine, our mother line, our stories, our conditioning. You know, there's so much that's held in that moon energy. And then coming together with Venus in her relationship to the sun in the cycle, I consider that's the evolutionary feminine. It's like that's the place in us where there's no story. We're just in the purity of the cutting edge of our evolution, feeling whatever we're feeling, but it's not, you know, I'm feeling this because of that. It's more that place we get to when we've really alchemized our story. And so, what a beautiful coming together of the two feminine energies in the pre dawn sky. So,
Yeah.
you'll get all those dates. I encourage you to go out and pray or sing or dance
Hmm.
or make offerings and just be. You will be changed by the light of Venus coming into your eyes, and especially with that lunar sliver of the waning balsamic moon. So gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
So you'll get that map to have a sense of, well, how do I work with the energies out there? And then also your sign, but written in a heroine's journey. Because you might have your Venus and Taurus, but that's the feminine is not a standalone point. The feminine is a movement. So, how did it go from Aries to Taurus to Gemini? What's the story? And so I wrote it in a heroine's journey story so
I
you can
love it.
understand your sign more in a process of
Right.
movement, and
Right.
then, intriguing you into finding out more of your Venus astrology, if you wish to go deeper. But it's a great start in that, and I try to pack it with a lot of um, good information for women that want to know more about Venus.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And, sounds so rich and meaningful. So I just know that a lot of people are going to want to experience that. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation, this beautiful conversation. I'm so appreciative.
Thank you, Michelle. It's my pleasure. Glad to get to connect with you in this way and support your amazing work in the world and get to be a part of what you're creating.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. And thanks so much to everybody listening. And we will cross paths very soon. Okay. So much love and bye for now.